Today, we're going to take another look at transfer portal possibilities for the Florida Gators, and we'll wrap up by previewing the Florida Gators versus Auburn Tigers women's basketball game that happens tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, only here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your business. Use netsuite.com/locked for special New Year pricing. Happy Thursday. I am Brandon Olson. You can find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. I'm also the founder of WholeLineSports.com, where you can find all my written work. I'm getting right into this one. I'm going to tell you right now that the names that you are going to hear today, there are five. There are 5 transfer portal names that we are going to talk about. 2 in the first segment, 3 in the second. And the reasoning for that is I really want to talk about these first 2 because I'm a big fan of both of them, and they both just went into the portal at this point a couple hours ago. For you guys listening, it was yesterday, of course. But yeah, I'm very excited for both of them. I'm a big fan of both of them. I don't know if Florida will pursue them, but if I were Billy Napier, I would, and that's kind of how I'm looking at this. For 4 of the 5 names, one of them we know Florida is pursuing, and they are favored to get because that one is Osiris Torrence, who you guys all know about. Gators fans know about. We've been hearing about him since he entered the portal. He's someone who's likely coming to Florida to be with Billy Napier again, and I mean, yeah, we'll get into the talk with Osiris Torrence later. But the first name I'm talking about is someone who I am a massive fan of. That will be Drew Sanders, the linebacker edge that just entered the transfer portal out of Alabama. And I'll tell you now, Jahleel Billingsley, the other one in this first segment, who's also out of Alabama. Shockingly, Alabama players that hit the portal are really good. I'm so stunned. But no, I'm a big fan of Drew Sanders, and I have been for a little bit. He was a 5-star recruit out of Texas in 2020. He is right now, like, the expectation is that he'll go to Texas. I feel like that's people just been like, oh, he's going to go home and to the school he would have gone to if he didn't go to Alabama. But times change. Things change, So I'm not just rolling over here and being like, oh, well, have fun in Texas. No, if I'm Billy Napier, I'm going after Drew Sanders. Like, I'm going after him easily. Like, you can watch even the Florida versus Alabama game from earlier this year in week 3. Drew Sanders made some plays. He dealt with injury for a while, by the way. That was when Will Anderson really broke out, and that's likely why Drew Sanders is entering the transfer portal, because Drew Sanders got injured. Will Anderson kind of took his spot and rotated into his lineup, and then that is when Will Anderson blew up, and Drew Sanders didn't really play too much after that. Had a little bit of trouble working into the rotation, so that was incredibly unfortunate. But no, I'm a big fan of his. I like what he can do. You can watch the Florida game in week 3, like I was talking about before I threw myself off track. He blew up a Kamari Gamble play. Like, they ran a screen to Kamari Gamble, and Drew Sanders killed it. Drew Sanders came right up and tackled Kamari Gamble, which, by the way, Kamari Gamble, wow. Like, I had Jahleel Billingsley on this list before that, but Kamari Gamble entering the transfer portal, to me, I think really sucks, and it was really surprising because I'm a big fan of Kamari's. I hate that he's leaving because, like I said, like, I'm a big fan. I thought he was either going to the NFL draft or coming back to Gainesville. It sucks that he's entering the transfer portal, but wishing absolutely nothing but the best for him. Big fan of his, but back to Drew Sanders. He blew up a Kamari Gamble screen. He made plays in the run game. He's not an elite pass rusher. I think that's why he struggled to get back into the lineup, because once Will Anderson took over his spot, I feel like Nick Saban was kind of like, why weren't we getting this production before out of this edge spot? Which I get, but at the same time, like, Will Anderson is a freak. Drew Sanders is still very young. This was just his second year out of high school, so he's still got at least one more year. I'd imagine that he stays for 2 wherever he transfers to. And Florida's got openings on the edge, and I think Drew Sanders is actually a really good fit in this Patrick Toney scheme, because you look at what was last week when I broke down the defensive scheme. It was, creepers, sim pressure, where you've got edge rushers who they look like they're going to be your rushers and they drop back into coverage. And I think getting a guy like Drew Sanders, who's, I feel, kind of capable of playing off ball, kind of capable of playing on the edge, I think that's a really great fit for him there. So I think Drew Sanders actually does fit into this Patrick Toney scheme. He's smart enough to operate in a Nick Saban defense. So obviously he will be able to pick up the intricacies of this defense, and he'll be able to pick up the scheme in his role. So I really like it. I think that'd be a good fit. I don't know if Florida will pursue him because, again, at the time of recording this, he's only been in the portal for a few hours. So who knows? But I mean, also checking up on his injury status, because he barely played in the second half of the season due to those injuries. It's like, I don't know if he was dealing with them also, and like maybe that's why he didn't play that much, because he was still dealing with injuries, or if he was just completely out of the rotation and fell out of favor, or what. But I think if you're Billy Napier, you got to give him a call there. Next, we've got Jahleel Billingsley, who I've mentioned already, and I feel like I've spoken about him quite a lot this season. When I talk about the Kyrie Elam play and all that fun stuff. But Jahleel Billingsley is an Alabama tight end that was in the doghouse pretty much at the start of the year. Like, we all knew it. Nick Saban had said that he was getting some kind of punishment or penalized for it. He was in the doghouse to start the year, and he was benched to start the year and did not really play. And then the Florida game, he got to play because, of course, why not? And he's an uber athletic tight end. He is an insanely athletic tight end. He returned kicks at Alabama. And it's like, he's a tight end, and he is. I think he's a bit of. I'm going to say unicorn. As much as I don't want to say unicorn, so I feel like people are like, oh, Kyle Pitts. Jahleel Billingsley is a bit of a unicorn because he returned kicks as a tight end. And people just go, wow, he is such a glorified wide receiver, which is the same thing said about Kyle Pitts and same thing said about Noah Fant. And guess what? Noah Fant played a lot of his snaps inline tight end. Kyle Pitts didn't play as many snaps as an inline tight end, but still played snaps at inline tight end. Jahleel Billingsley played the huge majority of his snaps as an inline tight end, despite the fact that he was athletic enough to return kicks and athletic enough to line up out wide, athletic enough to line up in the slot. And with the news of Kimori Gamble entering the transfer portal, I think you've got to kick the tires on Jahleel Billingsley here. Yeah, I get it. You've got Keon Zipperer, you've got Nick Elkson, so you've got these young tight ends on your roster, and it's like, well, why would we bring another one? And it's like, because you know what? This is a talent acquisition business, Billy Napier. You said it yourself. Go acquire some talent. You got to at least try to do it with Jahleel Billingsley. The untapped potential with Jahleel Billingsley and Drew Sanders, I feel like it's just too much to pass up. He's a mismatch nightmare. He's a better blocker than he gets credit for. He's a legitimate X-factor type of tight end. And I think that Billy Napier is smart enough to do it. I think that they will at least reach out and see what they can do, because I think Jahleel Billingsley is someone that you cannot overlook, especially with Kimori Gamble entering the transfer portal. It just makes too much sense to do it. This is it. The putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls right over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility, like, oh my God, because you're on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? Ugh, boomers, disgusting. To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite.com by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those that are ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. netsuite.com/locked. That is LOCKED. For Transfer Portal Part 2, we're going to take a look at Osiris Torrence first. I know Florida Gators fans, I know you're excited for him. I see the subreddit. I see y'all talking about him. I see you excited for him. And it seems like we're just like, not a matter of if he's going to come to Gainesville, but a matter of when he's going to come to Gainesville. Florida is obviously the heavy favorite. He's a very good right guard that was with Billy Napier at Louisiana. He went to Louisiana as a 3-star interior offensive lineman with Billy Napier as a head coach. and Rob Sale as the offensive coordinator. And as you know, Billy Napier is currently the head coach of the Florida Gators. And as of 2 days ago, Rob Sale, the offensive coordinator of the Florida Gators. So he can get right back to it and he can finish his college career the way he started, except at a much higher level. And Osiris Torrence had a dominant year this year, without a doubt, an absolutely dominant year, specifically as a run blocker. But I get it. We're all in the phase of hype everybody up. Osiris Torrence is going to come back down to earth a little bit as a blocker in this coming season if he comes to Florida. And I don't think there's a problem with that. He dominated the Sun Belt. I think he's going to come into the SEC. He can dominate, but I think it's much more likely that he's just a very good right guard. I don't think he's going to be as dominant as he was because he's going to be against SEC competition instead of the Sun Belt. And that's not really a knock, but it's kind of a knock. But watch Osiris Torrence win Louisiana versus Texas in week 1 this year. That was his worst game of the season by a long shot, I think. And it's like, well, that's what happens when he played Power 5 competition. So when he plays against the SEC defenses, SEC defensive lines are just ridiculous. So I think he's going to struggle a little bit, at least early on. But he's got the tools to become a great guard in this offense, and he's got the tools to become a great guard in the NFL. And I think that Osiris Torrence is pretty much already sold on coming to Gainesville. And like I said, I think it's a matter not of if he comes to Gainesville, but when he comes to Gainesville. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knock on wood because I don't like to jinx things. And I just spoken a lot of absolutes. So let me not do that. Next person to talk about is Kobe Hudson. He's a guy that I wanted to talk about because I wanted to talk about a receiver real quick instead of just, tight end, edge, O-line, D-line's next. But we're going to talk about Kobe Hudson a little bit. Kobe Hudson was a wide receiver for Auburn this past year. He was a high school quarterback that moved to receiver. And in 2021, he became not just the best receiver on that Auburn team. He became the most reliable receiver and the biggest big play threat on that offense. He got kicked off the team reportedly, and I say reportedly because everything's been taken down that says he got kicked off the team except for the screenshots of him saying I got kicked off the Auburn team. I never wanted to leave. So there's that, but we don't know what it was for exactly, so I'm not going to cast judgment on anything yet. He's raw in terms of consistency. Route running, not ideal. Catching, not ideal. But again, we're looking at a guy who just a couple of years ago was a quarterback. You can't expect people to pick up a new position like that. That's not how it works. So Kobe Hudson, a quarterback converting to wide receiver. I know a lot of you guys want to see a certain quarterback on this roster convert to wide receiver, but he won't, just so you know. But Kobe Hudson is going to continue to improve as a wide receiver, and he is explosive with the ball in his hands. He's a very dynamic playmaker, and I know you guys don't like him, but I'm going to say it. Jacob Copeland was supposed to be that guy this year. I think he was when he got the ball in his hands and he got the opportunity to do it, but Florida right now on roster doesn't really have that guy. Like Marcus Burke is who I think of when I think of the most explosive receiver on this team. But even then, I don't think of him as this shifty guy with the ball in his hands. I think of him more as just a deep threat. I don't think we really have that guy who's going to catch it short, make men miss, and make plays. I think we have Xavier Henderson and Justin Shorter who are going to catch it short and maybe run through defenders a little bit, which I have no problem with. But I think Kobe Hudson could be that next piece where it's like, all right, we've got someone who's going to catch the ball. He's going to make them miss. He's going to make plays in space, and he's going to do that because Florida's been looking for that dynamic yak guy. I mean, I get it. It wasn't long ago. But since Kadarius Toney left, we haven't really had someone that's going to step up like that. We talk a lot about how coaching was this past year and how scheme was this past year. But when you look at the receiver talent, there weren't a lot of guys that could create the big plays for themselves. And that's one of the reasons that Florida was so deadly in 2020 was because they had receivers that they would catch the ball and they would make plays. Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney would make just huge gains, where it seems like this past season, and I mean no disrespect to him by saying this, but it seems like this past season, the most dynamic player after the catch was Kamori Gamble. And he's thought of as more of a traditional tight end type, as more of a blocker. He shouldn't be the one that's making men miss after the catch. They were really missing that for the huge majority of this season. And the last player to talk about in the transfer portal is Jaxon Player, which is annoying to say the last player to talk about is Jaxon Player. But Jaxon Player is a defensive lineman out of Tulsa. He's been there for 4 years, so he's going to be a grad transfer. He played over 500 snaps in each of the past 2 seasons. The 2 seasons before that, he played about a combined 500 snaps. I think it was like 315 and like 150 or something like that. So it was in that range-ish. But Jaxon Player is this guy where he's a defensive lineman. Florida right now, when you look at who we have, it seems like Gervon Dexter's, I want to say, like written in Sharpie as a starting defensive lineman on this team, which is awesome. Gervon Dexter, huge player, huge big-time player, but he's more of a pass rusher than anything else, and he's still got things to work on. He's disruptive, but he's still got technique to work on to take that next step. But he's more of a pass rusher than a run stopper himself. And, we're losing Antonio Valentino and Daquan Newkirk are gone. And then you've got, question marks like Jalen Lee when he steps up. Can he be the consistent player? Desmond Watson, when he steps up, can he be a consistent player in terms of seeing significantly more snaps? Can they play better? Can they do it consistently? Jaxon Player is someone who he's kind of shown he can do it consistently. It's just been at a lower level, but at the same time, we're very excited for Osiris Torrence. So I'm going to be very excited for Jaxon Player too. I want Florida to take a shot at this kid and see what happens. And he's not a one-trick pony. He had 36 pressures this year, which isn't amazing, but it was on just 265 snaps. He was generating a pressure every 7.5 snaps, a little bit less than 7.5 snaps per every. So I'm like, what? Why wouldn't you want that guy? He's big enough, strong enough, and stout enough against the run to be your zero tech, especially in this defense where you're likely going to need someone that can do that because you've got 2 edge defenders that are likely going to be more focused on the pass. You've got Gervon Dexter, who's going to be more focused on the pass. So you add in Jaxon Player as that nose tackle. And I mean, hey, I'm not going to complain if we get a big dude here that can make plays in the run and passing game. So Jaxon Player is a name that I definitely want to see Florida take a swing at and just see what happens. I think he's good enough where he's going to be able to eat up blocks and allow one-on-ones with Gervon Dexter and a guard, with the edge rushers and the tackles. And I think that having a big nose tackle gives us that. That's one of the reasons TJ Slayton was so good, was because he gave us that opportunity when he was with the Gators in Gainesville. Hey, Gators fans, I'm here with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. It's called GetUpside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the GetUpside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, to get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. So that's up to 50 cents cash back per gallon on your first fill up. And I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do with your money, but I've always liked the phrase, I won't tell you what to do with your money, but if your money ain't making you more money, then you're dumber than a dummy. And I will stick with that one. And that's from The Office. Yeah, it's Joe Bennett. Yay. But I will say, wait till you really got to fill that thing up and then maximize your earnings right there. Maximize your potential and your return on your investment and all those fun terms. The cashback gets added right to your account. You can cash it out with your bank account, PayPal, an e-gift card to Amazon and other brands. Just download the free GetUpside app and use promo code SCORE to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. Anybody else make money this weekend? I know I did. I'm not gonna lie to you right now. I'm on a bit of a heater. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I'm on a bit of a heater. Obviously, Florida not doing great for me. They actually cost me a parlay the other day, so I'm really upset with them for that. It was the Auburn game. I was pissed about it, but we move on. But BetOnline even covers award shows, TV shows, and reality TV with real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. It is the best way to place your bets, and it's 100% free to sign up. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Make sure to use promo code LOCKEDON. That is LOCKED, no space, ON, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit on BetOnline. Now we're going to take a look at the Florida Gators versus Auburn Tigers women's basketball game that is happening tonight at 5 p.m. So sorry if you're listening to this episode late and you don't, then it's just a I don't even know what it would be called at that point because the game's already happened. It's whatever. That's what we're going to call it. The 11-5 Florida Gators are taking on the 8-6 Auburn Tigers, and the 8-6 Auburn Tigers are currently on a 3-game losing streak. All 3 were SEC play. Florida Gators are 1-2 in conference play, and Auburn is 0-3 in conference play. So not a great combined record for these teams in the SEC, but hey, at least Florida has a win. Luckily for Florida, this game is in Gainesville because I know you guys, or I know that you guys know I hate when I just, write things off as absolutes, like I've already mentioned in this episode. And I especially don't like to say a game's a gimme or anything like that. And I don't think this game is a gimme. But I think it makes it a lot easier that this game is in Gainesville because Auburn has been stellar at home. They've been 6-2 at home, and that's just that's fantastic. 2-4 on the road is very good for Florida because Auburn's going to be on the road. So luckily they are out of their element for this game. And I'm letting you know now, expect a low-scoring game just because that's how it's shaping up to be. Auburn has a great defense and an all right offense. I think one bright spot in this game is that Florida has given